All right, little Tuesday morning here. Got the old flat top out, the little Collings. This is a prototype, the OM9 they call this. Mahogany back and sides, very simple appointments. Just a pretty simple guitar, a little bright sounding, but it's a comfortable guitar to keep around the house. I thought I would, and I capoed up here to the 4th fret, playing out a D position, which would make that F sharp, I guess. Sometimes it's fun to put that capo on and get that tight, kind of, tight string tension up here. It kind of makes you play a little different. But there's that. Hey guys, I'm going to tell y'all a couple little stories as this channel evolves here. A couple stories about my childhood down on the Gulf Coast, man. There's been some pretty amazing, death-defying experiences and stories from down there. Not to even mention the Flora-Bama and all the things that happened there and all the gigs and everything. But I'm gonna tell you one story, and then there's a bunch. Trust me, there's a bunch. And I'll get to a lot of them as I make notes and get more organized. Eventually, there's gonna be a book from 0 to 40, and then 40 to however long I make it down the road. But been a lot of shit happen. So one story is, of course I'll never forget this. I was on I had a bunch of car wrecks when I was younger. You living out in the country, driving home late from gigs. I rolled a Ford Explorer, fell asleep at the wheel, rolled an Explorer with my Pro Reverb amp in it that's sitting right here. Luckily that thing didn't hit me in the head. I've crashed cars in golf courses. I've driven through people's fences. I've done it all, man. I mean, I've crashed through the Welcome to Florida sign in an old car I used to have. I fell asleep at the wheel coming back from a gig at 4 o'clock in the morning. These are all stories that I'll tell you. But one of the ones that I really remember that could have been horribly gone wrong, way worse, was I had played this gig in Fairhope, Alabama, some coffee shop gig in the evening, and I had a blue Saab 900 hatchback kind of car, and we didn't have any money back then, but we ever, but my uncles and dad and all, they always had German cars, Volvos, BMWs and stuff. They were always working on them, but we had German cars, and so not that Saab's German. I don't know what, I think, okay, you guys will tell me in the comments. I can't remember what Saab comes from, but anyway, I was heading to the gig, and I knew that there was this party afterwards. And so I had a cooler in the back. I had beer in the cooler. I had all my gear. I had my uncle's old Martin. I had my mandolin, my electric guitar. I had 2 pedal boards, my rack for my mandolin. I had my cables, amp. I had the full-blown gig rig, right? And so I'm in the car. I had a big bag of weed. I always carried a big giant bag of weed from 13 to 22. I smoked a lot of weed, and I had this big bag of weed. I always had a bag of weed I carried in my sock. I'd either have that in my sock or I would pre-roll about 6 joints. Big, we called them Alabama joints. They were as big around as your finger. And I'd have those lined up in my sock. I got a couple great stories coming for you guys in future videos. That just maybe remember one. But so we're going to this, going to this gig. I go play the gig, drive 45 minutes up to the eastern shore of Fairhope, which is just this, the east side of Mobile Bay. And so you can see Mobile, and then there's this little quaint town of Fairhope. We had this coffee shop gig. So me and this guy, I played with this guy, Dave, and he was meeting me there. So I drove up, played the gig, knowing that I'm going to this party back down close to my house in Lillian, Alabama, which is on Perdido Bay down on the Gulf Coast. And Perdido means lost bay because of the barrier islands, and they couldn't see the bay and all this whole long other story. But so played the gig. I'm ready to get the hell out of there and go to my friend's party. And I've got all the party favors and everything I need in the car. And I'm probably smoking and drinking, going back down to Lillian, 45 minutes away. I've got the cooler and the whole 9 yards. Well, I get all the way back down the 2-lane road to my buddy's house, his parents had a big house on Perdido Bay and a long white gravel driveway through the pine trees to get down to this house. And so there's cars lined up out on the road. Everybody's parked out on the 2-lane road, because the parking was full. So I am driving kind of fast, and I kind of whip into the driveway. Well, there was these guys standing there drinking, and who knows what else. And they kind of had to jump out of the way a little bit, and I didn't think it was that big of a deal. We were all just kids being kids, and I kind of, I kind of surprised them a little bit by coming in that way. And I drove all the way up to the front of the house to unload the cooler, and not even thinking about my guitars and stuff in the back of the car. And so I pull up, I park, I get the cooler out, and I leave my car there, parked up. I found a spot somehow parked up by the front porch, and so time goes on. We go down to the beach. We're drinking, partying, carrying on. Well, it seems like hours and hours go by, and I'm ready to leave at that point, or we're going somewhere else, or down to the bridge or something. And so I come back up, and I go to get in my car, and there's all these guys standing around my car. There's like 8 guys standing around my car, and I'm by myself. I'm a scrawny little kid. I'm like 17, and never been in a fight, to speak of. I punched one kid in the 2nd grade or something, and that was it. He bit me, so. Anyway, and so, so I go to try to get in the car, and all these guys are like kind of getting closer and closer. Like, man, you're not getting out of here, and these guys are about to kick my ass. Well, one of my buddies knew him, and he kind of stepped in. He's like, hey man, I know him. I've known him forever, and blah blah blah. Well, these guys weren't having it, and man, in a split second, I had to jump in my passenger door because they had me surrounded. I jumped in the passenger door of the car, slammed the door, jumped in the driver's seat, put it in reverse, hauled ass out of that white gravel driveway. Dust is flying. I whip out onto the 2-lane road. Of course, it's probably 11, 12 o'clock at night, midnight. Well, I start hauling ass down this 2-lane road. Well, those guys started chasing me. And so there was 6 guys in an old Chevy car. It wasn't anything cool. It wasn't a Nova or a Chevelle or anything. It was just some old Chevy and some brown beat up car. And these guys started chasing me. And so I'm freaking out. My adrenaline's going gangbusters. I'm probably half drunk and high for sure. And I'm booking it down this 2-lane road. And I'm going, 60, 70. These guys are behind me. And I'm just trying to figure out my exit strategy. How am I going to get away with these guys without getting killed or badly beaten, right? So we're hauling ass down the 2-lane road, 80 miles an hour, 85, and I'm cranking, and these guys are behind me, they're up on my bumper, and I go down the 2-lane road. I go to the stop sign, blow through the stop sign, and I start heading north past my parents' house on Highway 91 or whatever it is, and so all of a sudden they're behind me. I'm going probably 90 at this point. It's a straight 2-lane road all the way to Highway 98, and these guys are up on my bumper. Well, they turn their lights off. Well, now I can't see them. And I'm like, oh shit. And there's cornfields and stuff on either side and everything. Luckily, I'm not in the mountains, or it would have been really bad. So all of a sudden now they're on my side like this. They're on my left, on the driver's side, and they're up here, and they turn their lights on and they ram me. So they hit me on the driver's side. I lose control of the car. I start spinning. I spun back into so the cornfield had a cutout, and there was a bunch of trees here, kind of a swamp, like a low-lying wet area, and there's all these trees, and the cornfield just kind of did a little cut around it. So there's grass around this big, probably, I mean, I don't know, it was a huge, kind of wooded area. Well, I spun out, and I spun backwards into those trees, hit a tree backwards like this, slammed into the back, my back into the back of the seat of the car, because I hit the trees backwards. And so as soon as I stopped, the cooler of beer flew everywhere. The guitars are laying on the ground. The car's, totaled or whatever. I jump out and I start running my ass off back through these woods. I'm running through stickers and, water and trees and brush, and who knows how many snakes I almost stepped on or whatever, and I'm running, man. I run through those trees, and I finally broke out to the grass area, and then right into the corn stalks, and I kept running through those corn stalks, and I could kind of see a little bit, of what was going on through the corn and that little grassy area around those trees, and I just hunkered down and waited and see what was going on. Well, they stopped for a minute, sniffed around a little bit, saw that I had wrecked and that I wasn't there, and they took off. Well, about 20 minutes later, what seemed like it maybe a half hour, 20 minutes, the ambulance and the fire truck and everybody showed up, and then my dad showed up out of nowhere. And so I don't know who called, if somebody drove by and saw it, or they might have called and got scared. I have no idea. But I went back to the car after I realized that they were gone, and there was some sirens and stuff. I went back to the car, and my dad was there before I guess my dad was there before the fire trucks got there or whatever, because we were throwing those beers in the woods, and we were like, man, we got to get rid of this beer, and then we got to get rid of this weed, so we threw that all in the woods. We probably came back later and got it, and then all that, and then the guitars were fine, everything was fine. I was okay, and the car was totaled, and then man, they took a report. We tried to take that kid to court. He didn't show up. He's probably in jail somewhere. These were not good dudes. These were rough South Alabama little gangbangers, white dudes, rednecks, and that scared the shit out of me, man. And it was just a nasty crowd that I hung with back then, and until I, grew up and learned a little bit more about it. But that was a crazy night, and there's many more stories like that to come. I hope you enjoyed that one. I'm glad to be alive through all that childhood stuff, and it just shows you, man, I mean, your life can come full circle. Now, I don't want this to be this is not a reflection on my family, because they were fantastic parents. I was just a wild kid, and I quit school and never went back in the 10th grade, and, we were hell raisers, and we didn't know any better back then. I mean, it was South Alabama Gulf Coast. I wasn't exposed to a whole lot of, worldly culture at that point, other than my parents and the artistic, creative musician friends that they had. So I hope you enjoyed that. If you want to play the blues, you got to live it a little bit. If you want to play country, you got to be from the country. And so there's a little backstory on some of that stuff. I'll share some more stories with you soon, guys. Take it easy. Thanks for the support. Check the links below for everything guitar education and what I'm doing related. Subscribe to the channel. Check out Instagram for daily updates on other stuff. And cheers, y'all. See you soon. All right. Looking forward to the Newport Folk Festival coming up this weekend. See you guys. Bye.